Emma, sweetheart, you'll be over there with the little ones tonight. My mother's voice drifted across the private dining room like silk hiding a blade. Light, breezy, almost musical. She gestured toward a cramped corner table, wedged between a decorative plant and the emergency exit. I stood frozen in the archway of the Sterling Room, one of Seattle's most exclusive restaurants, my coat still draped over one arm. Around me, my family glided in designer clothes, crystal flutes of sparkling cider catching the low amber lighting. The space was all polished wood and soft candlelight, the kind of place that whispered money. But suddenly, everything felt ice cold. "I'm sorry, what?" I said, certain I'd misheard. "The children's section, darling." My mother adjusted the strand of pearls resting against her throat. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "We've reserved the main table for adults. Since you're not married yet, we thought you'd feel more at home with the kids. My name is Emma. I'm 29 years old, and I own a thriving event planning company in Seattle, Washington. I've spent the last 6 years clawing my way up from nothing, working 16-hour days, managing multi-million-dollar weddings, and earning a reputation that most people spend a lifetime chasing. Just last month, a major lifestyle publication ran an 8-page feature on my work. I bought my own condo 3 years ago. I have a retirement fund, health insurance I pay for myself, and a car with the title in my name. But apparently, tonight, none of that mattered. I glanced toward the corner. My nephew Mason, 9 years old, sat slumped in a tiny chair, legs swinging, eyes glued to a tablet. Beside him, my niece Lily, barely 7, colored on a paper placemat with crayons. The table was set with plastic cups. Cartoon animals grinned up from the rims. "Mom," I said slowly, keeping my voice steady even as heat crawled up my neck. "I'm 29. "Oh, don't be so sensitive." My father appeared beside her, tumbler of something amber in hand. "No, wait, sparkling water." He swirled it like it was scotch. "Old habit." "It's just dinner, Emma. The kids adore you. You'll have fun." I looked past them. The main table glowed under soft chandelier light. White linen, real glassware, flickering tapered candles. My older brother Marcus sat there beside his wife Victoria, both of them looking smug and settled. My sister Rachel laughed at something her husband James whispered. Even my cousin Claire, married only 8 months ago, had a seat at the grown-up table with her new husband. But not me. "This is ridiculous," I muttered. "What was that?" My mother's smile tightened like a drawstring. "Nothing." I forced my lips into something resembling a smile. "Where should I put my coat?" As I walked toward coat check, my phone buzzed. A text from Harper, my business partner. "How's the family circus? Hope they're finally treating you like the powerhouse you are." I nearly laughed out loud. The hostess took my coat. I turned back toward the private dining room, and with every step, that corner table seemed to shrink. "Aunt Emma," Mason looked up, grinning. "You're sitting with us." "Looks like it, bud." I ruffled his hair and folded myself into a child-sized chair. My knees hit the underside of the table. From where I sat, I had a perfect view of the main table. Marcus held court, spinning some story about a difficult client at his accounting firm. Everyone laughed right on cue. Rachel chimed in about her daughter's dance recital. My mother beamed, her whole face glowing with pride. I used to see that look directed at me. Back before I chose a career she didn't understand. Before I prioritized building something over finding a husband. "Are you okay, Aunt Emma?" Lily tugged my sleeve, her wide eyes full of concern. "You look sad." "I'm fine, sweetheart," I lied, turning toward her. "Tell me about school." As Lily launched into a story about her class pet turtle, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Harper. "P.S. The Bennett wedding contract just came through. Biggest client yet. We need to celebrate tomorrow." The Bennett wedding. 425 guests. Waterfront venue. A $2.8 million budget. The kind of event that would put my company on the map for the next decade. I'd spent months landing that client, perfecting the pitch, negotiating every clause, proving my worth over and over again. But tonight, I was sitting at the kids' table because I didn't have a ring on my finger. A waiter approached. He handed me a plastic menu covered in cartoon fonts. "For the young lady," he said with a condescending grin. I stared at it. Chicken tenders, mac and cheese, mini hot dogs. At the adult table, they were receiving leather-bound menus featuring filet mignon, seared salmon, herb-crusted lamb. Something inside me went dangerously still. I looked around the table. My family, laughing, talking, celebrating. Not one of them glanced in my direction. Not one of them saw anything wrong with this picture. I had driven 90 minutes to be here, rearranged 3 client meetings, bought a new dress specifically for tonight. and they seated me with children. I pulled out my phone and opened my messages. My fingers hovered, then typed, "Harper, change of plans. I need that celebration tonight. I'll explain later." Then I stood, smoothed my dress, picked up my purse. "Where are you going?" Mason asked. "Just need to make a call, bud," I said softly. "I'll be right back." But I wouldn't be. I walked past the main table without a single glance and headed straight for coat check. My hands were steady as I handed over my ticket, but my thoughts were a hurricane. Years of moments like this crashed over me all at once. The coat attendant returned with my jacket. "Leaving already. Change of plans," I said simply. As I slipped it on, I thought about my college graduation. I'd earned my degree in business administration with honors, working 2 jobs to pay for it myself. My parents attended, but they spent the whole reception talking about Marcus's upcoming promotion. "At least one of our kids chose a stable path," my father had said. Within earshot, I thought about the day I signed the lease on my first office. I'd called my mother, barely able to contain my excitement. "Mom, I did it. I found the perfect space." Her response, lukewarm at best, "That's nice, dear, but when are you going to settle down? You're not getting any younger." I was 26 at the time. I thought about last Christmas. Rachel announced her second pregnancy. My mother cried tears of joy and immediately began planning a baby shower. 2 weeks later, when I told them I'd landed my first 7-figure contract, my father just nodded. "That's good," he said, then changed the subject to Marcus's new car. The pattern had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see it until tonight. I pulled out my phone and texted my mother. "Had to leave. Work emergency. Sorry." I didn't wait for a response. I walked through the main dining room, past couples enjoying intimate dinners, past groups celebrating birthdays. Everyone looked so normal, so content. I wondered how many of them had families who made them feel invisible. The cool October air hit my face as I stepped outside. Seattle at dusk was beautiful, the skyline glittering, the streets alive with energy. I loved this city, loved the life I'd built here on my own terms. But standing on that sidewalk, I felt exhausted. Exhausted from fighting for scraps of validation, from people who should have loved me unconditionally. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "What do you mean you left? Where are you?" I ignored it and called Harper instead. "Hey, that was fast," she answered. "Dinner over already." "I'm done with it," I said, walking toward my car. "Long story, you free?" "Always. Meet at the rooftop cafe. We can grab coffee and you can tell me everything." "Perfect. See you in 25. As I drove through the city, my phone buzzed relentlessly. I didn't look. I knew what the messages would say. My mother, confused, maybe concerned, but mostly annoyed. My father, irritated that I'd disrupted his evening. My siblings probably wouldn't even notice I was gone until dessert. The rooftop cafe was a place Harper and I had discovered in the early days of building the business. We'd spent countless late nights there strategizing, celebrating small wins, and surviving rough patches together. Nathan, the owner, greeted me with a warm smile as I entered. "Emma, good to see you. Your friend's already here." He gestured toward our usual corner booth. Harper stood as I approached. Her face immediately shifted to concern. "Okay, spill, what happened?" I slid into the booth and exhaled slowly. They sat me at the children's table. Her eyes widened. "What?" "My family's fancy dinner. They literally seated me with my 9-year-old nephew and 7-year-old niece. Plastic cups, kids' menu, the whole thing." "Because you're not married," Harper said flatly. "Exactly." She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Emma, that's insane, you know that, right?" "I know. Did you say anything?" "I left." Harper smiled. "Good." Nathan appeared with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "On the house, ladies. You both look like you need it." As he poured, my phone lit up again, and again, and again. I pulled it out. 7 missed calls, 15 texts. The notifications kept coming. "Wow," Harper said, watching the screen light up like a slot machine. "They noticed." I scrolled through the messages. "Mom, Emma, what's going on? Where are you?" "Dad, this is very rude. We're all waiting." "Marcus, Mom's freaking out. What did you do?" "Rachel, can you please just come back? You're ruining dinner." "Ruining dinner?" That was rich. "What are you going to do?" Harper asked. I stared at my phone. The missed calls climbed. 20, 25. My mother had called 9 times in the last 12 minutes. Part of me wanted to answer, to explain, to make them understand. But a bigger part of me knew it wouldn't matter. They'd find a way to make this my fault. Too sensitive, just a joke, overreacting. I had spent 29 years trying to earn their respect. And tonight, they showed me exactly what I was worth. I turned my phone face down on the table. I'm not answering, I said quietly. Harper raised her mug. Good, let them sweat. If you're enjoying this story, I'd love for you to stick around. There's so much more coming, and trust me, Emma's just getting started. The coffee was rich and dark, but I could barely taste it. My mind kept replaying that moment, my mother casually directing me to the corner like I was still a child, like I hadn't built an empire, like my entire adult life was somehow incomplete. Tell me something, Harper said, setting down her mug. Has it always been like this? I thought about her question. Not always. When I was younger, things were different. But once Marcus got married, everything shifted. Suddenly there was this invisible line, the real adults on one side and everyone else on the other. And you ended up on the wrong side, because you chose your career over a husband. Exactly. I took another sip. It's not like I'm anti-marriage. I'm just not going to settle for someone who doesn't respect what I've built. My business is mine. I created it from nothing. And you're incredible at it, Harper said firmly. Emma, we've grown 40% this year alone. We have a wait list of clients. You're 29 years old and running a company that most people only dream about. That's not nothing. Try telling my parents that. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it despite myself. Emma Catherine, this is unacceptable. Call me immediately. The use of my middle name made me smile bitterly. Classic power move, reserved for when she was truly angry. How many calls now? Harper asked. 38. Jesus. Another text came through, this time from Rachel. Mom is crying. Dad is furious. Are you seriously not coming back? I showed Harper the message. She read it and shook her head. They're guilt-tripping you, trying to make you the villain so they don't have to face what they did. Pretty much. Are you going to go back? I looked at my phone, at the relentless stream of notifications that wouldn't stop. Part of me felt guilty. I'd been raised to be polite, to keep the peace, to not make waves. Walking out of that dinner went against every instinct my parents had drilled into me since childhood. But another part of me felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. No, I said firmly. I'm not going back, not tonight, maybe not for a long time. Harper smiled. Good. They need to understand you won't accept being treated like that anymore. I just wonder how long I can hold out, I admitted. You know how my family is. They'll keep calling. They'll show up at my office. My mother will leave voicemails about how I've hurt her. They'll twist this until I'm the villain. Let them try, Harper leaned forward. Emma, you've spent years proving yourself to them. When are you going to accept that it's their problem, not yours? Her words landed like a punch. She was right. I'd spent so much time trying to be enough, to make them see my success, to earn their pride. But what if that was impossible? What if nothing I did would ever be good enough, because it didn't fit their narrow script? My phone rang again. This time it was my father. 47 calls, I said, staring at the screen. That's commitment, Harper said dryly. Or panic. Probably both. I declined the call and opened my messages. A new one from Marcus. You're being incredibly selfish. This was supposed to be a nice family dinner, and you've made it all about you. I read it aloud. Harper actually laughed. The irony. They create a whole seating chart about how you don't measure up, and somehow you're the selfish one. That's my family. Emma, can I ask you something? What? What would you tell a client if they were in this situation? If someone came to you and said their family was treating them this way, what would you say? I thought about it. I'd tell them they deserve better, that they shouldn't accept being disrespected, no matter who it's from. Exactly. So why are you any different? She had a point. In my business, I advised clients constantly about setting boundaries, about knowing their worth, about refusing to settle for less than they deserved. I helped people plan the most important days of their lives, making sure every detail reflected their value. But when it came to my own family, I'd accepted scraps. Not anymore. You're right, I said. I'm done. Done with what? Done accepting this. Done trying to prove myself to people who will never value what I've accomplished. Done shrinking to make them comfortable. Harper grinned. There she is. There's the Emma I know. Another call from my mother. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I turned the phone completely off. What are you doing? Harper asked. Taking a break, I said. From all of it, they can wait. How long are you going to make them wait? As long as it takes for them to understand that I'm not a child, that I won't be treated like one, that my life has value, even if they don't understand it. Nathan appeared at our table. How's everything, ladies? Perfect, I said, and I meant it. For the first time all evening, I could breathe. Another round, he asked, reading the mood. Absolutely. As he walked away, Harper raised her mug. To standing up for yourself. To standing up for myself, I echoed. We clinked mugs, and I took a long drink, warmth spreading through me. My phone sat dark and silent on the table, and I felt no urge to turn it back on. Let them wonder. Let them panic. Let them finally understand what it felt like to be dismissed and ignored. Tomorrow would bring its own storms. I was going to enjoy my freedom. I woke the next morning with a dull headache and a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. Sunlight poured through the windows of my condo. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying the previous night. My phone was still off. I'd left it that way intentionally, needing the silence, the space, but I couldn't avoid reality forever. Eventually, I'd have to turn it back on and face whatever hurricane was waiting. I made coffee, strong and black, and sat at my kitchen island with my laptop. Work had always been my sanctuary. I pulled up the Bennett wedding file and lost myself in the details. Color palettes, vendor contracts, timeline revisions. This was something I understood, something I was good at, something that didn't require me to shrink or apologize for existing. Around 10:30 a.m., I finally turned my phone back on. The notifications erupted across the screen like a bomb going off. 81 missed calls, 127 text messages, 18 voicemails. My battery had died at some point overnight, which meant these had piled up for hours. I scrolled through them, my coffee going cold beside me. Mom, Emma, I don't understand what's happening. Please call me. I'm worried sick. Dad, this behavior is unacceptable. You owe your mother an apology. Marcus, way to ruin dinner for everyone. Real mature. Rachel, I can't believe you just left like that. Mom cried all night. And then, buried in the middle of all the anger and guilt tripping, one message made me pause. It was from my Aunt Diane, my mother's sister, sent around 1:00 a.m. Emma, I heard what happened at dinner. I just want you to know I understand why you left. Your mother called me upset, but when she told me about the seating arrangement, I told her she was wrong. You're a grown woman with a successful career. You didn't deserve that. Call me if you need to talk. I stared at that message for a long time. Aunt Diane had always been different from the rest of my family, more independent, less concerned with appearances. She'd never married, built a career as a freelance architect, traveled the world on her own terms. My mother often spoke about her with a strange mix of admiration and pity, as if Diane's life was somehow incomplete. I saved her message and kept scrolling. More accusations, more guilt, more anger. No one seemed to understand why I'd left. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care. Then I saw the most recent message, sent just 30 minutes ago. It was from my mother, and the tone had shifted. Emma, your father and I have discussed the situation. We think you may have overreacted, but we're willing to overlook it if you apologize. We're having Sunday brunch at the house this weekend. Your siblings will be there. We expect you to come and make things right. I read it 3 times, my jaw tightening with each pass. They expected me to apologize. They thought I had overreacted. They were willing to overlook it, as if they were doing me some grand favor. I set my phone down carefully, afraid that if I held it any longer, I'd throw it across the room. My laptop chimed with an incoming video call. Harper, morning, she said when I answered. How are you feeling? Like I'm living in an alternate universe, I said. My family expects me to apologize to them. What? I turned my phone around to show her the message. Harper's face cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally something close to determination. You're not actually considering it, are you? No, absolutely not. But I need to figure out how to respond. Easy, you don't. Harper, Emma, I'm serious. You've spent your entire life responding to their demands, jumping when they said jump, trying to earn approval they'll never give. What if you just stopped responding, stopped playing their game? They want you at Sunday brunch so they can put you back in your place, make you apologize for having boundaries, reassert control. What if you just didn't show up? The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. They'll lose their minds, I said. Good, let them. But Harper, what's the worst that can happen? They get angry. They already are. They stop talking to you. From what you've told me, that might actually be a relief. They cut you out. Sweetie, they already did that when they sat you at the children's table. Her words hit like a slap. Because they were true. They had already shown me exactly where I stood. I was less than. I was acceptable only when I conformed. You're right, I said quietly. Of course I'm right. I'm always right. You know this. Despite everything, I smiled. What would I do without you? Probably still be sitting at that kid's table, wondering why you feel so empty inside. The image made me laugh, even though it hurt. So what do? I asked. You live your life. You focus on your business. You spend time with people who actually value you. and you let them figure out that you're not going to dance to their tune anymore. They won't just let it go. Probably not, but that's their problem, not yours. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen island for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and typed a response to my mother's message. I won't be coming to Sunday brunch. I need some space right now. I'll reach out when I'm ready. My finger hovered over the send button for several seconds. This felt like crossing a line, like stepping off a cliff with no idea where I'd land. I pressed send. The response came within 45 seconds. What do you mean you need space? Space from what? We're your family. You don't get to just decide you need space from family. Then another. Emma, this is ridiculous. Stop being so dramatic. And another. Your father is very disappointed in you. I watched the messages roll in, one after another, each one trying to pull me back, make me doubt myself, restore the old dynamic where I apologized and shrank and made myself smaller. But something inside me had shifted. I thought about what Harper said, about what Aunt Diane wrote, about how I felt sitting at that table with plastic cups and cartoon animals. I turned my phone off again and went back to work. The week that followed was surreal. I threw myself into work with an intensity that surprised even me. The Bennett wedding demanded constant attention, and I was grateful for the distraction. Harper and I met with vendors, toured venues, refined every detail until it was flawless. In the world of event planning, I had control. I had respect. People valued my expertise, trusted my vision. It was everything my family had never given me. On Wednesday afternoon, as I was reviewing floral mock-ups with a vendor, my office phone rang. My assistant, Mia, knocked on the door. Emma, your mother's online too. She says it's urgent. I looked at the phone, then back at Mia. Tell her I'm with a client, and I'll call her back. She says she'll wait. Tell her I'll call her back when I have time. Mia nodded and closed the door. Through the glass, I could see her relaying the message. A minute later, my cell phone started ringing. I declined the call and turned my attention back to the vendor. Sorry about that, now about the centerpieces. But it was hard to concentrate. My mother called 4 more times during that meeting. When the vendor left, I checked my messages. 2 voicemails from my mother, both increasingly frantic. A text from my father, your mother is very upset. This has gone on long enough, call her back. And one from Marcus, what is your problem? Just call mom and stop being so childish. I stared at that message. Childish? They still saw me as a child, even as I ran a successful business, even as I managed projects worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, even as I employed 7 people and had built something real from nothing. This time, it was Aunt Diane. I answered, Hey, Emma. Hi, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Not at all, how are you? I'm fine, but I wanted to check in on you. Your mother called me last night. She's very worked up. I can imagine. She told me you refused to come to Sunday brunch, that you're not returning her calls. I waited for the lecture, the gentle scolding about family obligations. Instead, Diane said, Good for you. I nearly dropped my phone. Good for you, she repeated. Emma, I've watched your mother treat you like you're less than your whole life. It was wrong when you were younger, and it's wrong now. What she did at that dinner was inexcusable. She doesn't see it that way. Of course she doesn't. Your mother has very specific ideas about how life should look. Anything that doesn't fit makes her uncomfortable. But that's her issue, not yours. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you for saying that. I'm saying it because it's true. Listen, I know your mother is my sister and I love her. But that doesn't mean I agree with how she's treated you. You've built an incredible life. You should be proud. I am proud, I said. I just wish they could see it. They might eventually, or they might not. But you can't keep sacrificing yourself hoping they'll change. After we hung up, I sat in my office for a while, just breathing. Aunt Diane's words had cracked something open inside me, something I'd kept locked away for years. The realization that maybe, just maybe, the problem wasn't me. That evening, as I was leaving the office, Mia stopped me. Emma, before you go, your mother called again. 5 times, actually. And your father called twice. They both said it was extremely important. My stomach dropped. Did they say what it was about? Your mother said she needs to speak with you about a family emergency. My hands started shaking. A family emergency. What if something had happened? What if my father was sick? What if Rachel or Marcus had been in an accident? I dialed my mother's number. She answered on the first ring. Emma, finally. I've been trying to reach you for hours. Mia said there was a family emergency. What happened? Is everyone okay? Well, no, everyone is not okay. Your father and I are extremely upset. Your siblings are upset. This whole situation is causing problems for everyone. I felt the fear drain out of me. replaced by slow-burning anger. That's the emergency, that everyone's upset. Yes, Emma, this has gone on long enough. Whatever point you were trying to make, you've made it. Now it's time to stop being difficult and come home for brunch on Sunday. Mom, I told you I need space. Space? Space from what? We're your family. Frankly, I think you're being incredibly selfish. Do you know how embarrassing this is? People are asking questions. Where were you at dinner? Why did you leave? Why aren't you coming to brunch? What am I supposed to tell them? How about the truth? That you seated me at the children's table, and I decided I deserved better. A sharp intake of breath. Is that what this is about? That silly seating arrangement? Emma, you're being ridiculous. It wasn't personal. Mom, you gave me a kid's menu. You sat me with a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old while every other adult sat at the main table. How was that not personal? You're blowing this completely out of proportion. It was just a practical decision. The table could only fit so many people, and since you're not married, we thought that I was less of an adult than everyone else. That's not what I said, but it's what you meant. My mother's voice turned icy. I don't appreciate your tone. I'm your mother, and you need to show me some respect. Respect goes both ways, Mom. Silence. Then, I'm giving you until Sunday to calm down and reconsider. If you don't show up for brunch, there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? Your father and I have been discussing it. If you can't be part of this family, then maybe you shouldn't be included in family matters. That means holidays, gatherings, everything. You'll be on your own. The threat hung in the air. She was trying to scare me, to make me panic at the thought of being cut off. A year ago, even a month ago, it might have worked. But after sitting at that children's table, after a week of relentless manipulation, after years of feeling less than, something inside me had changed. If that's how you want it, I said quietly, then okay. If that's your decision, I'll accept it. But I'm not coming to brunch to apologize for having boundaries. And I hung up. Sunday morning arrived cold and gray. Typical Seattle weather, heavy clouds threatening rain. I woke early and went for a run through my neighborhood, letting the crisp air clear my head. My mind felt sharper than it had in weeks. I had made my choice, and I was prepared to live with whatever came next. When I got back to my condo, I showered and made breakfast. I was sitting down with coffee and toast when my phone rang. Hey, aren't you supposed to be at brunch right now? She asked. Nope, I'm at home, watching the clouds roll in and feeling surprisingly calm. You didn't go. I didn't go. And how do you feel about that? Honestly, good, really good. That's my girl. Listen, I know today might be rough, so I wanted you to know I'm here if you need anything. We could grab lunch, or I could come over with coffee and terrible reality TV. Thanks, Harper, I'll let you know. After we hung up, I settled onto my couch with my laptop to work, but I found it hard to concentrate. I kept wondering what was happening at my parents' house. Were they sitting around the brunch table right now, talking about me? Were my siblings shaking their heads at my absence? Was my mother playing the victim, telling everyone how terrible I was being? Around 1:00 p.m., my phone started ringing. First Marcus, then Rachel, then my father. I let them all go to voicemail. Then my mother called, and called again, and again. I turned my phone to silent and set it face down on the coffee table. 2 hours later, I heard a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole, and my stomach dropped. My mother stood in the hallway, her face tight with barely controlled fury. Behind her was my father, looking stern and uncomfortable. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Hi, Mom, Dad. We need to talk, my mother said, pushing past me into the condo. My father followed, closing the door behind him. You could have called first, I said. I did call. Many times you didn't answer. I was taking space, like I said I needed. This has gone far enough, Emma. My father's voice was hard. You're acting like a spoiled child. The irony of him calling me a child wasn't lost on me. I'm acting like someone who has boundaries, I said calmly. There's a difference. Boundaries? My mother laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call disrespecting your family? Humiliating us in front of everyone? I disrespected you. I felt heat rising in my chest. Mom, you sat me at the children's table. Oh, for heaven's sake, we're back to that. It was just a seating arrangement. It was a message, a very clear message that you don't see me as equal to my siblings. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my business? When was the last time you celebrated one of my achievements the way you celebrate everything Marcus and Rachel do? My mother's face flushed. We're very proud of you. No, you're not. You're confused by me. You're embarrassed that I'm not married. You wish I'd chosen a different path, a more traditional path like Rachel, but I didn't, and that doesn't make my life less valuable. We never said your life was less valuable. You didn't have to say it. You showed it. You've been showing it for years. I was just too busy trying to earn your approval to see it clearly. My father stepped forward. Emma, you're blowing this completely out of proportion. All we did was make a practical decision about seating, and you've turned it into some drama. A practical decision, Dad? Every other adult in the family sat at the main table. Every single one. The only person who didn't was me. And the reason given was that I'm not married. Well, you're not. And that makes me less of an adult. He shifted uncomfortably. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Neither of them answered. I took a deep breath. Look, I love you both, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep shrinking myself to fit into the box you want me in. I've built a good life. I have a successful business I'm proud of. I have friends who respect and support me, and I need family who can do the same. We do respect you, my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. No, you don't. If you respected me, you would have seated me at the adult table. If you respected me, you wouldn't have expected me to apologize for leaving a humiliating situation. If you respected me, you'd understand why I need space right now. So what are you saying? My father asked. That you're done with us. I'm saying I need time to figure out what a healthy relationship with you looks like. And that might mean not seeing you for a while. My mother's eyes filled with tears. You can't mean that. I do. This is ridiculous. My father's face darkened. You're our daughter. You don't just get to cut us off. I'm not cutting you off. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. It doesn't feel different from where we're standing, my mother said. I know, and I'm sorry it hurts, but I have to do what's best for me. They stood there for a moment, struggling with what to say. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice trembling. If this is really what you want, then fine. But don't expect us to come crawling back when you change your mind. I don't expect anything, I said quietly. That's the whole point. They left without another word. I watched through the window as they got into their car and drove away. Then I sat down on my couch and let myself cry. Not tears of regret, but grief for the family I had wanted but never had, mixed with relief that I had finally stopped pretending. A text from Aunt Diane. Your mother just called me, very upset. I told her she needs to respect your boundaries. I'm proud of you, Emma. This took courage. I typed back, thank you. That means more than you know. Another text came in. Harper, still up for that lunch? I have a feeling you might need it. I smiled through my tears. Yes, give me an hour. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. I set down my phone and looked around my condo at the life I had built for myself. It wasn't the life my parents wanted for me, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. 4 weeks passed in relative peace. I threw myself into work with renewed energy. The Bennett wedding was shaping up to be the event of the season. Harper and I met with the bride and groom multiple times, refining details, adjusting timelines, ensuring everything would be flawless. During those weeks, my family continued their attempts to contact me, but with decreasing frequency. The calls went from daily to every few days, then to once a week. The messages shifted from angry to confused to something that almost resembled concern, though it was hard to tell if they were concerned about me or about how my absence reflected on them. I didn't respond to any of it. Aunt Diane checked in regularly, offering support and updates on the family drama. Apparently, my absence had created quite a stir. My mother told people I was busy with work. My siblings told their friends I was going through a phase. No one seemed willing to admit the real reason I'd stopped coming around. One Thursday afternoon, I was in the office reviewing contracts when Mia knocked on my door. Emma, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Who is it? She said her name is Victoria. Marcus's wife. I hadn't heard from her directly since the dinner. I considered telling Mia I was busy, but curiosity won. Send her in. Victoria entered looking uncomfortable, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She was dressed impeccably as always, her dark hair perfectly styled, but there was something uncertain in her expression. Emma, thank you for seeing me, she said, sitting down without being invited. What can I do for you, Victoria? She fidgeted with her purse strap. I wanted to talk to you about what happened at the dinner. Okay. Look, I know you and your family have been having issues, and Marcus tells me you're being difficult, but I wanted to hear your side of things. I leaned back in my chair. You want to hear my side? Yes, because honestly, the way your mother tells it, you just got upset over nothing and stormed out. But I've known you for 6 years, Emma, and that doesn't sound like you. I studied her carefully. What does Marcus say about it? He says you're being dramatic and childish. that you're punishing everyone because of a silly seating arrangement. And what do you think? Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think you got seated at the children's table while the rest of us sat with the adults. And I think that was messed up. I raised my eyebrows. You noticed? Of course I noticed. I thought it was weird, but your mother insisted that was how she wanted it. She said something about you being more comfortable with the kids since you're single. Victoria paused. Emma, I didn't say anything at the time. And I should have. That's part of why I'm here. I wanted to apologize. You're apologizing. Yeah, I should have stood up for you. I should have said something, but I didn't. And I feel terrible about it. I wasn't sure what to say. Of all the people I expected an apology from, Victoria had not been on the list. Thank you, I finally said. I appreciate that. Your mother has been calling me, Victoria continued. She wants me to convince you to come to Thanksgiving. She says if you don't come, it'll ruin the holiday for everyone. Thanksgiving is 10 weeks away. I know, but she's already planning and panicking. She wants everything to be perfect, and your absence is throwing off her plans. Let me guess. She wants you to talk me into coming back so she doesn't have to admit she was wrong. Victoria smiled sadly. Pretty much. But Emma, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm here because I think you deserve to know what's really going on. What do you mean? Your mother's been calling everyone. Family, friends, distant relatives, even people from her book club. She's telling this whole story about how you've abandoned the family, how you're being selfish and hurtful. She's painting herself as the victim. I felt familiar anger stirring. Of course she is. But here's the thing, not everyone's buying it. My own mother asked me what really happened. And when I told her about the children's table, she was horrified. She said your mother was out of line. Really? Yeah, and I've heard similar things from other people. Your mother thinks she has everyone on her side, but she doesn't. People are starting to ask questions. This was interesting. I had assumed my family would close ranks, present a united front, make me the villain. The idea that some people were actually questioning the narrative gave me a small sense of validation. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because I think what your mother did was wrong. You're not the problem here, Emma. You've never been the problem. After Victoria left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking. My mother's attempts to control the narrative didn't surprise me. But the fact that it wasn't working completely, that did. Maybe people weren't as blind as I thought. Maybe some of them could see through the performance. My phone buzzed with a text from Harper. The Bennett bride just called. She wants to add another 60 guests. Can we make it work? I smiled and texted back. Absolutely. Let's schedule a meeting. Work. This was something I understood, something I could control. And right now, that felt like exactly what I needed. The Bennett wedding arrived on a perfect November evening. The venue, a historic estate overlooking Puget Sound, was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. String lights draped from every tree. Candles flickered on tables dressed in champagne silk. Flowers cascaded from every surface in shades of ivory and blush. 10/4/5:57 p.m. Ishak Khan. It was the culmination of months of planning. And as I walked through the space doing final checks, I felt a deep sense of pride. This was what I was good at. This was what I had built. The ceremony went flawlessly. The bride looked radiant. The groom's eyes shone with tears. Their 425 guests witnessed something truly beautiful. During the reception, as I coordinated with catering and kept the timeline on track, I noticed several guests approaching me. Are you Emma? One woman asked. The wedding planner. Yes, that's me. This is absolutely stunning. Do you have a card? My son is getting engaged next month and we want the best. By the end of the night, I had handed out 32 business cards and scheduled 8 consultations. Harper was beaming as we packed up our supplies. Emma, this was incredible. The bride's mother told me this was the best wedding she'd ever attended. We're going to be booked solid for the next year. We did good work, I said, exhausted but happy. We did great work, and you did it while dealing with all that family drama. I'm impressed. As I drove home that night, I felt content in a way I hadn't in years. My life was mine. My success was mine, and I didn't need anyone's validation to know my worth. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Emma, it's Caroline Bennett, the bride. My heart skipped. Caroline, hi, is everything okay? Everything is perfect, more than perfect. Emma, I just wanted to call and thank you personally. Last night was like a dream. You made everything so beautiful, so seamless. It was exactly what we hoped for. I'm so glad. It was an honor to be part of your day. I've already told everyone I know about you. In fact, I'm having brunch with friends this morning and they're all asking for your information. I hope you don't mind. Mind, not at all. Thank you, Caroline. After we hung up, I lay in bed smiling. This was the reward. Not just the money or the bookings, but knowing I had created something meaningful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi, Emma, this is Patricia Bennett, Caroline's mother. I wanted to reach out about planning my younger daughter's wedding. Would you be available for a consultation? Before I could respond, another text came through. Emma, this is Denise Howard. I attended the Bennett wedding last night. I'm on the board of the Seattle Arts Foundation, and we're looking for an event planner for our annual gala. Are you interested in discussing this? And then another. Hi, Emma, this is Jessica. Caroline gave me your number. I'm getting married next May and would love to work with you. I stared at my phone as messages kept coming. Within an hour, I had 11 new inquiries. By the end of the day, it was 18. Harper called that evening, laughing. Nancy, have you checked our email? I've been getting texts all day. Well, add emails to that. The Bennett wedding is apparently the talk of Seattle society. Everyone wants to know who planned it. This is insane. This is success, Emma. This is what happens when you're brilliant at what you do, and you finally get the recognition you deserve. That week was a whirlwind. I met with potential clients, gave presentations to corporate planners, even did an interview with a local lifestyle blog about my business. Every meeting ended with a contract or a solid lead. My calendar filled 14 months in advance. On Friday evening, as I was leaving a consultation with a tech company wanting me to plan their annual retreat, my phone rang. My mother. I stared at the screen for a moment, then answered. Hi, Mom. Emma, her voice was stiff. I've been trying to reach you. I've been busy with work. Yes, I heard. Apparently you planned some big wedding that everyone's talking about. The Bennett wedding, yes. Pause. I saw photos online. It looked very nice. Thank you. Another pause. Emma, your father and I have been discussing things. We think maybe we overreacted about the whole dinner situation. I waited. We're willing to move past it. If you are, Thanksgiving is coming up and it would be nice if we could all be together, as a family. Move past it. What about an apology? I asked. An apology? Yes, for seating me at the children's table, for dismissing my feelings, for threatening to cut me off when I tried to set boundaries. My mother's tone hardened. I'm not going to apologize for trying to organize a family dinner. You're the one who made this into a big deal. Then I guess we don't have anything more to discuss. Emma, I hung up. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and clear. I woke early and went for a run, enjoying the quiet streets and the way my breath misted in the air. When I got back, I showered and put on comfortable clothes, jeans and a soft sweater, something I would never have been allowed to wear to one of my mother's formal holiday dinners. Harper was hosting a Friendsgiving at her apartment. She'd invited me weeks ago. For everyone who doesn't want to deal with family drama, she'd said with a grin. I'd accepted immediately. As I was getting ready, my phone buzzed. Aunt Diane, happy Thanksgiving, Emma. Proud of you for standing your ground. Enjoy your day. Victoria, happy Thanksgiving. Just FYI, your mom's been complaining all morning about how you're ruining the holiday. Marcus told her to drop it. Things are tense. Hope you're having a better day than we are. I smiled at that. Then came one from my mother. Since you've decided not to be part of this family, I suppose there's no point in wishing you a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're satisfied with your choices. I deleted it without responding. The Friendsgiving was exactly what I needed. Harper had invited a dozen people, colleagues, friends, even a few clients who'd become friends. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed. Laughter and good food filled the space. No one asked why I wasn't with my family. No one made me feel like I was missing something essential. During dinner, we went around the table sharing what we were thankful for. When it was my turn, I said, I'm thankful for friends who accept me as I am, for a career that fulfills me, and for finally learning that I don't need to shrink myself to fit someone else's expectations. Harper raised her glass. To Emma, who is absolutely killing it at life. Everyone clinked glasses, and I felt warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the food. Later, as I was helping clean up, my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. Emma, this is Gregory Bennett, Caroline's father. Mr. Bennett, hello, how are you? Wonderful, thanks to you. Listen, I'm calling because I want to offer you an opportunity. I'm on the board of several companies here in Seattle. We're always looking for top-tier event planners for corporate functions. Your work at my daughter's wedding was exceptional. I'd like to bring you in to pitch for several upcoming events. We're talking significant contracts. My heart raced. I would be very interested in that. Excellent. I'll have my assistant reach out. Emma, you're going to do very well in this city. Mark my words. After we hung up, I just stood there in Harper's kitchen, trying to process what had just happened. Good news? Harper asked, noticing my expression. Potentially life-changing news. Tell me. I explained about Gregory Bennett's call. Harper squealed and hugged me. Emma, this is huge. Corporate events are where the real money is. Your family has no idea what they're missing out on, do they? Not a clue. The next few weeks were transformative. I met with Gregory Bennett and his associates, presented proposals, landed 4 major corporate contracts. My business grew exponentially. I hired 3 more employees and started looking for larger office space. One December afternoon, as I was reviewing contracts in my expanded office, Mia knocked on the door. Emma, your mother is here. I took a breath. My mother entered, looking around at the new space. The larger windows, the sleek furniture, the view of downtown Seattle. Her expression was hard to read. This is quite an upgrade, she said. Business has been good. So I've heard. She sat down without being invited. Emma, I wanted to talk to you about Christmas. I'm not coming to Christmas, Mom. I figured as much, but I wanted you to know that your absence is affecting the whole family. Your niece and nephew keep asking where Aunt Emma is. Marcus and Rachel are upset. Your father barely speaks anymore. And whose fault is that? My mother's jaw tightened. You're being very selfish. No, I'm being healthy. There's a difference. You're throwing away your family over one small incident. It wasn't one small incident, Mom. It was years of being treated like I didn't matter because I didn't fit your ideal. The dinner was just the moment I finally saw it clearly. So that's it. You're just done with us. I'm done accepting less than I deserve. If you can't respect me and my choices, then yes, I'm done. My mother stood. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but I doubt it. She left without another word. Through my office window, I watched her get into her car and drive away. Then I turned back to my desk, to the contracts and proposals and plans for my growing empire. Harper, dinner tomorrow to celebrate your new contracts. Absolutely. In the months that followed, my parents made a few more attempts to contact me, each one less forceful than the last. When I didn't respond, they eventually stopped trying. My siblings followed suit, apparently deciding that maintaining their relationship with our parents was more important than maintaining one with me. I heard through Aunt Diane that my mother told people I had become too successful to care about family anymore, still unable to see the irony in that statement. 8 months later, Victoria called me out of the blue. Emma, it's Victoria. Do you have a minute? Of course. What's up? There was a long pause. Marcus and I are getting divorced. I sat down slowly. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Honestly, I'm relieved. Her voice was steady. I finally stood up to your family's impossible expectations, and I wanted to thank you. Thank me for showing me it was possible, for proving that walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. After we hung up, I sat in my office staring out at the Seattle skyline. Victoria's words stayed with me for days. 3 months after that, I heard through Aunt Diane that Rachel's marriage was struggling. Apparently, my mother's attempts to control every aspect of Rachel's life, from how she raised her children to what career choices she made, had finally pushed her to a breaking point. They'd had a massive falling out. Rachel had stopped answering calls for weeks, though eventually, she returned to the fold after apologizing and promising to do better. The cycle continued. As for my parents, they found themselves increasingly isolated, unable to understand why their rigid expectations and conditional love had driven their children away, or at least driven a wedge so deep that family gatherings became tense performances rather than genuine connection. My mother still hosted holidays, still curated the perfect tablescape, still insisted everything look flawless from the outside. But according to Aunt Diane, the warmth was gone. It's like watching a beautiful stage production with no heart, Diane told me over coffee one afternoon. Everyone shows up, plays their part, and leaves exhausted. Do they ever talk about me? I asked, surprising myself with the question. Your mother does. She tells people you're too busy to come around. But sometimes, when she's had a glass of wine at family events, she gets this look, like she's trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Does she blame herself? Diane smiled sadly. No, she blames you for being difficult. But I think, deep down, there's a part of her that knows the truth. She's just too proud to admit it. A year and a half after that fateful dinner, my business had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. I had 15 employees now, A beautiful office space in downtown Seattle with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. A client roster that read like a who's who of Seattle's elite. I'd been featured in 3 major publications, won 2 industry awards, been invited to speak at conferences across the country. One evening, as I was locking up the office, Mir approached me. "Emma, before you go, someone left this for you at reception." She handed me an elegant envelope, cream-colored, expensive paper. Inside was a handwritten note on embossed stationery. "Dear Emma, you don't know me, but I attended the Bennett wedding 2 years ago. I was so moved by the beauty and thoughtfulness of that event that I kept your card. I'm writing because my daughter is getting married next spring, and there's no one else I'd trust with such an important day. But I'm also writing because I heard, through mutual acquaintances, about what happened with your family, and I wanted you to know something. I'm a mother of 3 daughters, and if any of them accomplished half of what you have, I would be bursting with pride. What you've built is extraordinary, and anyone who can't see that is blind. I hope you'll consider working with us, but more than that, I hope you know your worth. With deep respect, Margaret Castellana." I read the note 3 times, tears blurring my vision by the end. A stranger saw what my own parents couldn't. I tucked the note into my bag and headed home. That weekend, I met Margaret and her daughter Sophia at a cafe in Capitol Hill. Margaret was elegant, warm, and genuine. Sophia was bright-eyed and excited, clutching a Pinterest board full of ideas. As we talked through her vision for the wedding, Margaret said something that stopped me cold. "Sophia is my youngest, and watching her grow into this confident, capable woman has been the greatest joy of my life." She reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. "I'm so proud of the person she's become. Whatever path she chooses, married or not, I just want her to be happy." Sophia smiled. "Mom's been saying that since we were kids, build your own life first, everything else is extra." I felt something crack open inside my chest. This was what it looked like. A mother who celebrated her daughter for who she was, not who she was expected to be. "I'd be honored to plan your wedding," I said quietly. 6 months later, on a perfect June evening, I stood at the back of a garden venue watching Sophia marry the love of her life. The ceremony was intimate and beautiful. Every detail reflected them, their story, their values, their joy. As Margaret walked past me during the processional, she paused and whispered, "Thank you for making this perfect." "It was my pleasure," I said, and I meant it. After the reception, as my team packed up, Harper pulled me aside. "Emma, I have something to tell you." "What's up?" She took a breath. "I got a call today from a producer at a major streaming network. They're doing a docuseries on women entrepreneurs in creative industries, and they want to feature you." I blinked. "What?" "They've been following your work. The awards, the press, the growth of the company. They think your story would be inspiring." "Harper, I don't know." "Emma," she grabbed my shoulders. "This is huge. This is national exposure. This could take the business to a whole new level. A year ago, I would have hesitated, worried what my family would think, worried about drawing attention, worried about being too much. But now, let's do it," I said. The production took 3 months. Camera crews followed me to consultations, venue tour, planning meetings. They interviewed clients, employees, even Harper, and they wanted to interview my family. "We'd love to get your parents' perspective," the producer said during a planning call. "The family angle adds depth. My family and I aren't in contact," I said simply. "Oh," she paused. "Can I ask why?" I considered how much to share. Then I told her the truth. Not all of it, but enough. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Would you be comfortable talking about that on camera?" she asked gently. "About choosing yourself even when it meant losing your family." "Yes," I said. "I think I would." The episode aired on a Friday night in October. I watched it at Harper's apartment, surrounded by friends and colleagues, people who had become my chosen family. Seeing my story on screen was surreal. They'd captured the business, yes, the beautiful weddings, the satisfied clients, the growth and success. But they'd also captured something deeper. The cost of standing up for yourself, the grief of losing people you love, the strength it takes to choose your own path. Near the end of the episode, there was a moment where the interviewer asked me, "Do you have any regrets?" On screen, I watched myself think carefully before answering. "I regret that my family couldn't accept me as I am, but I don't regret choosing myself. For the first time in my life, I'm living authentically, and that's worth everything." The screen faded to black. The room erupted in applause. Harper hugged me tight. "Emma, that was incredible." My phone started buzzing immediately. Messages poured in from clients, colleagues, old friends, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. "You're amazing." So proud of you. Thank you for sharing your story. This inspired me to set boundaries with my own family. I read through them, overwhelmed by the response. Then I saw one that made my heart skip. It was from Aunt Diane. Just watched. I'm crying. Your parents watched too at my house. Your mother didn't say a word the entire time. But Emma, when it ended, she was crying. I think she finally understands what she lost. Part of me wanted to reach out, to call, to try one more time. But I knew better. Understanding and change were two different things. And I had learned the hard way that you can't force people to value you. I texted Diane back. Thank you for letting me know. I hope someday she finds peace with her choices. I've found peace with mine. 2 weeks after the episode aired, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was my parents' house. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a handwritten note from my mother. Emma, I watched your interview. I've watched it 3 times now, actually. I don't know what to say except that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not seeing you, for not celebrating you, for making you feel like you had to choose between being yourself and being part of this family. You were right about the dinner, about the seating, about all of it. I was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. But I needed you to know that I see you now. I see what you've built. I see who you've become. And I'm so very proud of you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Love, Mom. I read the letter twice. Then I set it down on my kitchen counter and made myself tea. I didn't call her. Not that day, or the next, or the week after. But I kept the letter. 3 months later, on a cold December afternoon, I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. Emma. There was a long pause. I could hear her crying softly. I didn't think I'd hear from you, she said. I got your letter. I meant every word. Emma, I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or maybe ever, but I want you to know that I'm trying. I'm really trying to understand where I went wrong. It wasn't just one thing, Mom. It was years of small moments that added up. I know. Your Aunt Diane has been very direct with me about that. Despite everything, I smiled. That sounds like Diane. She thinks I should go to therapy. Do you think you should? A long pause. Yes, my mother said quietly. I do. That's good, Mom. That's really good. We talked for 20 minutes, not about the past, but about the present, about my business, about her life, about small, safe things. When we hung up, I didn't feel healed, but I felt something shift. A door not fully open, but no longer locked. 6 months after that, my mother invited me to coffee. Just the two of us. We met at a cafe halfway between our homes. Neutral territory. She looked older than I remembered, more tired, but there was something softer in her expression. Thank you for coming, she said. Of course. We ordered coffee and sat by the window. I've been going to therapy, she said, for 4 months now. How's that going? It's hard, really hard, facing the ways I've hurt you and your siblings. She took a breath. My therapist asked me why I couldn't accept your choices, why your success threatened me so much. What did you say? I didn't have an answer at first, but the more we talked, the more I realized. She paused, gathering her words. I was raised to believe a woman's value came from marriage and family. I built my entire identity around being a wife and mother. And when you chose a different path and thrived, it challenged everything I believed about my own life. I sat with that for a moment. Mom, your life has value. You don't have to diminish mine to validate yours. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I know that now. I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it. We didn't fix everything that day, or in the months that followed. But slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding. My mother came to my office once, looked around with genuine awe. Emma, this is incredible. I had no idea it was this big. I tried to tell you, I said gently. I know, I wasn't listening, but I'm listening now. She started asking about my work. Actually asking, not just polite questions, but real curiosity. She read the articles written about me. She told her friends about my success, not with embarrassment, but with pride. It wasn't perfect. We still had difficult conversations, still hit rough patches, but it was real, and that was enough. 2 years after that dinner at the Sterling Room, I stood in my office looking out at the Seattle skyline. My business was thriving beyond measure. I had 22 employees now, an office that had been featured in design magazines, a reputation that brought clients from across the country. But more than that, I had peace. I had friendships that nourished me, work that fulfilled me, a life that was mine. My relationship with my mother was still a work in progress. We had coffee once a month, talked on the phone every few weeks. She'd even attended one of my corporate events and told me afterward how impressed she was. My father was slower to come around, but he was trying. Marcus and I had reconnected briefly after his divorce. We weren't close, but we were civil. Rachel and I exchanged occasional texts, though she still struggled under the weight of our parents' expectations. But the most important relationship I'd rebuilt was with myself. I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by other people's approval, that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was survival, that sometimes the best thing you can do for the people you love is refuse to shrink yourself for their comfort. A text from Harper. New inquiry just came in. They saw the documentary. Want us to plan a 500-person gala. Are you free to meet tomorrow? Absolutely. Send me the details. Another text came through. This one from Sophia, the bride whose wedding I'd planned. Emma, just found out I'm pregnant. Can you believe it? You'll have to plan the baby shower. I laughed and sent back congratulations. This was my life now, built on my terms, filled with people who valued me, rich with purpose and meaning. I thought about that night at the Sterling Room, sitting at the children's table, feeling invisible and dismissed. It had felt like the end of everything, but it turned out to be the beginning of knowing my worth, of refusing to accept less, of building a life that was truly mine. I had lost a family that night, but I had gained something far more valuable, myself. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a framed photo that sat in the drawer. It was from Margaret and Sophia's wedding. Margaret had sent it to me with a note. To the woman who made magic happen, thank you for seeing my daughter's worth and your own. I set it on my desk, where I could see it every day. A reminder. Not everyone will see your value. Not everyone will celebrate your success. Not everyone will understand your choices. But the right people will. And more importantly, you will. As I stood there, looking out at the city I'd built my empire in, I felt something I'd never felt sitting at my parents' table. Enough. I was enough. Exactly as I was. And standing there in my corner office, surrounded by the evidence of everything I'd created, I knew I had made the right choice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply refusing to shrink yourself for people who will never appreciate you anyway. Sometimes it's building a life so authentic, so fulfilling, so successful that their opinion no longer matters. Sometimes it's choosing yourself. And that is the most powerful thing you can do. If this story moved you, I hope you'll remember Emma's journey the next time someone tries to make you feel small for being exactly who you are. Because you deserve a seat at the table, not the kids' version, but the real one. And if they won't give it to you, build your own table. Thank you for staying with me through all 4 parts. Your time means everything.